Chips are good.
What kind of chips we got?
We got. Guess what? I got my camera working too.
Yeah.
Doritos. So don't let Paulie see that. Welcome everybody to Midnight's Edge After Dark. I'm Tom Connors. Don't adjust your sets. We're actually early or on time, whatever you want to call it. And we have the boss man with us. Hello, Andrew.
Hey, greetings everyone. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. It's a rare treat
Mic
to have you.
working and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, your mic is working again. That's true. And also joining us, at least so far, anyway, we have Clobbering Times. How you doing, my friend?
Thanks for having me here, Tom and Andre. A pleasure to see you, my buddy. And hello out there in the chat. Great to see you all. Looking forward to it. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, I was gonna. We almost didn't have a show today because I was gonna go see Cocaine Bear, but then the weather got in the way. So I'm like, no, I'm not gonna mess with this.
A little bit of weather up there, is there?
Nah, it's not worth it. Oh, and also speaking of weather, we have Script Doctor joining us from the Great White North.
Hey, how's it going? You started on time today. Congrats.
Yeah, we did because we have the boss man here. And since I didn't go to Cocaine Bear, I discovered that we have a Warner Brothers Discovery quarterly call that happened today. Valiant Renegade had covered it, and we're going to talk a little bit about that news. And so Andre's here because he's going to be absent from the morning show. Isn't that right, tomorrow?
That is indeed right. I have another commitment tomorrow, which means I regrettably will not be able to attend the morning show because Henry Rollins is live at the same time.
Mother. Oh, wait, that's dancing.
Yeah, that's dancing.
Yeah,
Liar, the Henry Rollins one.
Liar, that's the one, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's funny because I always make fun of you because I was like, is you going to a Rammstein concert? Is that like church for you guys over there? Because like every week, it seems like you're going to a Rammstein concert. Finally, it's somebody else.
Well, to be fair, I did see Laibach 2 weeks ago, and they were only the inspiration for Rammstein. But yeah.
Yeah, but usually it's Rammstein. It's like, is that your guys' church or something in Norway? Just
no, actually, but it's like a lot these next few weeks here. So like now I've got Henry Rollins, actually spoken word. It's not like a musical concert.
Oh, okay.
And then in another couple of weeks, it's Weird Al Yankovic. So
that'll be great. Seen him twice. Seen him twice in person. That's a great show.
Nice, very cool.
You know what's even cooler is he does songs that he could never record live.
Oh, really? Oh, brilliant. I can't wait.
Yeah, there's certain ones like Chicken Pot Pie he'll do live, which is Live and Let Die.
I mean, I have not heard that one. Wow. It's cool.
Because Paul McCartney said, he goes, it's funny, but since I'm a vegetarian, I don't think you could do that one.
Oh, my God.
So really? He does it live. And there's a couple other ones he does live, too, yeah, that the artist said no. Yeah.
Oh, that's so ridiculous.
Yeah, Prince never let him have one
hear
either.
That one. Yeah,
Prince
no,
always said no. Down. Every time, yeah.
I don't know
I
about
can't remember which one he had. He had one for When Doves Cry, and I can't remember which one that was.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Wow.
Chicken pot pie.
Damn, man, now I'll never get to hear that, huh? I'd love to hear that one.
Oh, I'm sure it's out there on YouTube somewhere.
Oh, okay.
I think I've even heard it. But no, it's just, which is weird because Weird Al himself is actually a vegetarian.
Is he?
Yeah. But most of his songs are about food. Go figure. Jesus, we're early, so my alarm's going off. But all right, so the news of the day, kids. Welcome everybody in the chat. I see we've got over 200 people watching. Hit that like button, share out the link, let everybody know that we're live. KR Nut says he's seen Weird Al live twice.
Oh, very cool.
We got General Zod here with Assad, not Zod. Tiger Valley's here. We've got Michael Gonzalez. CC's hanging out in the chat. How you doing, CC? Making some bacon, it looks like. We have Jamie G, Cool Gamers here. Tim Hayes. Tommy's here. So many more. Thank you for being here, guys. Hit that like button. Share out the stream. We've got some Warner Brothers news to discuss. It totally spaced out that there was a quarterly call today, and Valiant, as I said, I was on there with him, and he was talking about all the ins and outs. It sounds like they're doing pretty well. The Hogwarts game is a screaming success. We had learned that it cost $140 million to make, and it has already made over $850 million in sales.
That's pretty impressive.
Imagine if that was a movie.
Yeah. Of course, it's been a while now where there's a shit ton more money in games than there are in movie, but of course they also cost all that more to make because now, unbelievably, you need like teams of like 500, 600, 700 people to make these games. I mean, you could do with like literally 100 of that back on the Mega Drive, but I guess times are different.
Yep. And you're right. Like Hollywood has been paying attention for a while as far as like games being the next big thing. Script, do you ever hear about that a little bit more about as far as like, do you ever get offers for writing games and stuff at all?
Offers to write games? No, not myself.
Okay.
Sometimes you'll get an assignment that'll go out and people will pitch ideas, but no, you don't. They don't usually offer those jobs
Gotcha.
to screenwriters.
I was just curious if they were starting to try and overlap a little bit more. That was kind of why I was asking because
Well, Warner Brothers doesn't. No studio offers jobs to anybody. They set out an assignment, which is usually of an existing IP, and then you pitch them something, and if they like it, that's how you get the job.
all right, I guess I'll really rephrase my question. Is that something you actually have the option to do?
Yeah, I do have the option to do that. If never
I
done
guess
it before, it'd be difficult because you have to.
I guess my question was going towards, is this something that you've noticed lately, is like in the last few years, is it something they're getting into more? Are the studios getting into gaming more? Is it anything that's
Oh no, it
come
hasn't.
across
It's
your
been the
path?
same way as far as I've seen it for 15 years. No increase that I can point to.
Okay. I was just curious if they were trying to get into it themselves, like in any capacity, if they're just letting everybody else do it. But like, I guess he did mention something about a possible series related to Harry Potter, and I'm assuming it might have something to do with Hogwarts. And then other than that, there was a little DC talk, not much. He did mention that no project was going to go out until it was ready. And he's been saying that a couple times now, and I wonder if that's telegraphing if they're going to do some tinkering with Aquaman 2. What do you guys think? Or do you think that they're just figuring that's a dead horse?
I think there may be two sides to that. One is that it's a sign that there may be delays to some of these movies, and don't expect them to hit all release dates. I also think it may be yet another dig at Marvel, because only today we had a report that said that due to like shortage and limited resources for special effects, Marvel had to choose which movie that the special effects guys were to prioritize: Black Panther Wakanda Forever or Ant-Man Quantumania. And they chose Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which is apparently a big part of the reason why Ant-Man Quantumania looks as crappy as it does. Of course, then you can make the argument, but the movie wasn't really ready for release, was it? Maybe he's making a swipe at stuff like that. I would not put that past him.
That did cross my mind. The other thing I thought that he might be taking a swipe at was like the previous regime enforcing out Justice League before it was time, just so they could get their bonus.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised there.
Because that's been a common issue among Warner Brothers for years. But one thing that kind of took everybody by surprise, because it almost seemed like they were kind of working together in some capacity through the Embracer Group, but now that doesn't seem to be the case. It seems like Warner Brothers has declared war on Amazon by announcing some Lord of the Rings stuff coming, and not only that, Peter Jackson has confirmed that he is in talks with Warner Brothers to work with them on this stuff. Because they have now struck a multi-year pact with Swedish gamer Embracer Group. So this is a very interesting turn of events. Before we break into the story proper, Andre, what's your reaction to this news?
Well, now that you tell me this is a little because we spoke about this on Mr. H reviews a couple of hours ago, but you just gave me some more information that I did not have then. My thought right now is that the Embracer Group didn't so much give a license as there probably has been some kind of courtroom battle or proceedings taking place in the background. Because remember, Warner and New Line, they always had the rights. The whole point with the animated War of the Rohirrim
Right.
to extend the rights. And then, of course, the Embracer Group came in and they may have decided that, you know what, now we want everything back and maybe give it to Amazon highest bidder, see what we can do. And probably there has been like some backroom deals, lawyers got involved. And now the conclusion is clear, I would imagine, that the Embracer Group doesn't have a leg to stand on. And the previous thing is valid. All they can do is try to save face and make it seem like, yeah, this is now something we initiated, although what's really happening is that the old deal is still in effect. And now the cash goes just to the Embracer Group instead of the Salt Sands Company or the whoever it was. Yeah, so I really think that this means that there will be no interconnectivity between Amazon and New Line's Lord of the Rings. The real Lord of the Rings will continue. And that's really bad news for the upcoming season 2 of Amazon's Rings of Power, even though it will now fully be directed by women, because that evidently was the problem last time around.
Which is funny because we also learned that they had to cut some checks to New Line for whatever reason it is, and there is some involvement because of whatever crossover with the copyrights over certain characters. So it'll be interesting to see what they're able to do with this. Clobby, though, just off the top, though, what's your reaction to this news that Warner Brothers is basically declaring war with Amazon over Lord of the Rings?
Well, again, it's first I've heard about it when we came on here earlier, so it's tough to form much of anything other than to think it can't be necessarily a bad thing that if Peter Jackson is involved. And like I said, a little competition is always good for things. And again, I mean, you automatically got one more talent than all of Amazon has combined right there if he's involved in it, so who knows?
That's a good point.
Something great.
Yeah, basically, if you want to compare this, I'll quote Garth from Wayne's World. Basically, like, if Amazon was a flavor, their Lord of the Rings would be pralines and dick.
I love it.
In comparison to this, which is, the OG, right? Like, it's a script. What's your reaction to this? I don't know if you've heard much about this yet or not.
Well, I did listen to the earnings call, and I think it was a brilliant move for Zaslav to say that we have the movie rights to Lord of the Rings and to a number of other aspects of Lord of the Rings. It would be foolish of them not to make anything from that. Same thing goes with Harry Potter. So, yeah, this is great. Who cares that Amazon's doing their own thing? They know what that is. They know it doesn't resonate well. It's not even a war or competition at this point. It's like, oh, right. You're doing Lord of the Rings? Sure you are. We're doing Lord of the Rings. We're Warner Brothers.
Yeah, that's kind of one way of looking at it. It is kind of a power play of sorts, or however you want to look at it. Like it's David versus Goliath in a way.
Of something that they've had the rights to for over 25 years.
Yeah.
And the other part is that I would highly doubt that they'd remake Lord of the Rings. I think they're just going to tell as many stories as they can using all the other sources that they have the rights to available, because why would they want to remake or reboot this very successful, well-made trilogy when they could probably tell shorter films that can be interspersed or interwoven between that trilogy or on the beforehand or post those events and just have fun with it for the audience.
Yep. I mean, granted, with Peter Jackson involved, these things could go the route of The Hobbit. But what I mean by the whole David Goliath thing, it's like, you're right, there is no competition here. Even at their worst, I'm sure Warner would put out something 10 times better than Amazon can muster with what they can do with the Rings of Power. Yeah. So let's see what THR has to say about this. Warner Brothers and New Line are going back to Middle Earth, with the studio making a deal that will allow it to develop more Lord of the Rings movies. The multi-year pact with rights holder Embracer Group AB allows Warner to develop features based on J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings books and The Hobbit Embracer Group, the Swedish gaming company, acquired the rights to produce Lord of the Rings films, games, and merchandise, theme parks, attractions, and live productions when it purchased the rights holder Middle-earth Enterprises last year from the Saul Zaentz Company. Now, as we've talked about before, those rights were all sorts of fucked up. like as Andre pointed out, like I guarantee you there was some kind of arbitration involved here with this whole thing, because this has been something that the Embracer or the
Saul
Zaentz Company has been in court in and out for the last 30-40 years over this shit.
Because basically they don't know how to write contracts, they don't know how to read contracts, so typically they will make a contract and not fully understand exactly what are the limitations of it, which means that they sometimes will even give the exclusive usage of one thing to multiple parties, all kinds of stuff that ends up in arbitration. And I believe this was like the same thing here. Because remember, before the Saul Zaentz Company sold the Lord of the Rings entertainment rights to the Embracer Group to begin with, the whole story was that they wanted to sell the Lord of the Rings rights because they thought they had the movie rights and everything. This was the official release. They thought they had the rights.
I think it was, as far as we know, it basically was how they put it or something like that.
And very shortly after, the Warner and New Line, they put out the statement to the effect of hell to the fuck no. Here's our upcoming War of the Rohirrim, which extends the rights, to which the Saul Zaentz Company were like, well, fuck.
They basically pulled a Fantastic Four on him, is what they did.
Kind of. Exactly that, actually.
Yeah, for those who don't know, back in the day, they made that Roger Corman Fantastic Four movie that's never been released just to retain the rights, because they were going to lose them if they didn't make a movie. And they didn't have to release one, they just had to make a movie. So in this case, though, I'm sure that was what, like Andre's saying, it's been X amount of years since The Hobbit. Warner Brothers probably had to exercise their right to make some kind of movie or property within the Lord of the Rings, or they were going to lose their rights, or right to extend said license. And that's probably what happened here, is once they've gotten this in order, Embracer Group realized, they went and did their due diligence, figured this whole shit out for Saul Zaentz Company after they bought it, and they're like, shit, they do have the rights, and they just made this movie that's going to be out by such and such date, which basically means they have the right to extend their movie rights, which is the situation they're stuck in right now. So like they're basically stuck working with Warner Brothers, whether Embracer likes it or not.
That's what I'm thinking. I think that there's no way that they could get out of it.
Yeah, because I mean, I heard that the Amazon was trying to do everything they could. But the move announced during the Warner Brothers Discovery investor call today comes as CEO David Zaslav seeks to assure Wall Street that Warner Brothers is very much in the franchise game, here harkening back to the 2000s glory days when the studio was minting money with Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, and Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. In November, Zaslav said he would like to make a deal with author J.K. Rowling for more Harry Potter, and initially floated the notion of Lord of the Rings return. So yeah, he did hint something towards an extension of the Harry Potter franchise. He did bring up DC, but funnily enough, on the Dark Knight front, he did not mention the Batman at all, which is kind of funny. But he did mention that with DC that they're not going to release anything before it's ready. So we'll get into that in just a moment here. But the bigger part of this story, which we'll get the statement here from Jackson, which is the other development, because him and Fran Walsh are looking to be involved with this, and says, Warner and Embracer have kept us in the loop every step of the way, and we look forward to speaking with them further to hear the vision for the franchise moving forward. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they are definitely involved, but that does mean they've been a part of this since the beginning, and I would imagine they probably will be at least somewhat involved going forward. What do you guys say to that statement?
Sounds plausible. I agree with your assessment.
It's an easy job for them, and it's free money essentially for those two, because it's not work in comparison to other projects that they've done. They had a blast. I mean, it was exhausting, but they did have a blast making that trilogy. So why not take the free, easy job as either at bare minimum a consultant.
Right, Clobby?
Yeah. Yep. Oh no. Great. Absolutely.
I mean, it's not like
Why
they're
not?
doing a whole lot lately. I mean, he's been working on some
No.
documentaries and stuff. And I mean, really, what's weird is the timing of this. Because remember, if they've been in the loop this whole time, and we know this has been going on in the background now for the better part of at least 3, 4, 5, 6 months, something like that, or more.
It's probably
Notice-
going on since they commissioned the animated feature, which would be 3 or 4
Probably.
years ago.
But the point I was getting to is all of a sudden, if you notice that Peter Jackson was pretty mum on all that shit with Amazon until all of a sudden here a couple months ago, it was like 4 to 6 months ago, he finally came out and said, yeah, no, Amazon never contacted me. They never had anything to do with me. Like they initially got some like conversations going and then they ghosted me, basically. That was it. And I had posited that they couldn't be involved with Peter Jackson because of the license situation. But I wonder if he was putting that out there as basically to kind of distance himself at that point from the Amazon show because he knew this was coming, is what I was getting to. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys or not, but because it wasn't that long ago that he finally said that, because otherwise he was mum on the whole thing before that.
I don't know. I think maybe he was actually honest. I mean, it's completely plausible that Amazon thought they had enough of the rights that they could have coordinated with Jackson. When they found out they couldn't, then they just cut ties. Like there's also,
Six has
Jackson's
been
not really known to playing tactics like that socially for, with competition. So maybe he did, maybe he didn't, but it doesn't matter now. He's with Warner Brothers. He's not going to be leaving them anytime soon.
right.
He's associated, as far as I know, with the animated feature coming out.
Yeah, he's
So
at least a
he's-
producer.
So yeah, so he's got that to promote. Yeah, if anything, he probably just got asked an honest question and gave the answer that he had, which is, yeah, they reached out and then ghosted me.
Yep. Well, we also have joining us Valiant Renegade. How you doing, sir?
We are.
Good. How y'all doing?
What up,
Hey,
Nick?
greetings.
Good
of course,
evening.
we're in the middle of the Lord of the Rings discussion. We were just talking about how Peter Jackson might be involved, or more than likely involved, with the Warner side of things. Did they mention him during the earnings call at all? I don't remember.
No. Zaslav, during the call, merely mentioned that we have new Lord of the Rings movies coming forth, and that he was excited about them. And of course, he reiterated what he has before, that DC, Harry Potter, and Lord of the Rings are the 3 tentpoles of Warner Brothers. This is what this studio needs to center itself around for the big stuff. And the fact, I mean, there was no mention of PJ in the call that I've heard. I mean, if he did, I missed it. But I knew, and I think I even said it during the live show, I'm sure he is. It's like I'd be surprised if he's not.
Right.
At this point. So because it was funny, he even, Zaslav made a remark about, I'm paraphrasing, but Amazon, they got the TV stuff. We got the movies with Lord of the Rings. We own the movie rights. What are we doing? And it's just kind of like a slight to Amazon in that regard. I think they know they're going to bury Amazon with this.
Yeah, that's what I said. It was like declaring war, but it's not even really a war, like Script is pointing out at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because one is clearly Lord of the Rings, the other is a knockoff. But we are losing Andre here, and we're being joined by Nick. So it's like a tag team. Welcome, Nick. How you doing?
I'm
Hey.
good, man. I was thrown off guard with the unexpected earlier time. I'm like, whoa, I gotta hurry up with everything, so I had to speed my efforts. But it seems like I came at a really good essential point where VR's talk about the earnings stuff, and the Lord of the Rings. So this is very essential. So I'm just gonna shut up and let the man
Well,
speak. But
Actually, I
hello,
was
chat
going to
and
just
everyone.
let Andre, before he takes off here, we're going to switch gears just for a second because I wanted him to comment on the Warner Brothers stuff on his way out the door. So, yeah, or anything else you wanted to comment on the Warner Brothers business.
I haven't had the time to fully research exactly what was said, so I'll refer to Valiant Renegade on that one. I'll take his word for it.
I'll do my best.
Thanks for joining us, Andre. We always love to get to have you, even if it's just for a short while. Hopefully you have an excellent time with Henry Rollins.
Yeah, awesome.
Indeed, yeah.
Cheers. And we'll have some more videos coming.
Ooh, enjoy that. That's killer.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. Spoken word.
Nice. Oh, those are good. I've seen one of those before.
Yeah, I've
blast.
been to like I think I've seen 4 spoken words plus
Nice.
1 Rollins band. Yeah, that's about
Nice.
right.
There's still ones out there, which is nice to see because there's not many of them.
Nope, this is true.
All right.
So
Well,
yeah,
we will
that's
talk
awesome.
to you soon, and you take care.
All right,
Be
take
good,
care,
Andre.
everyone. Bye.
So yeah, let's see what the chat is saying here real quick before we move a little forward with what Valiant's got to share with us. Waltman says, these are rumors, take as you will. Have you seen Overlord's DVDs? New video, interesting stuff. BlackRock's covering Disney's $3 billion loss, and Chapek knew about FTX but got canned. No, I haven't, but this sounds a lot like the type of stuff that we've been hearing about, but I haven't heard this aspect of it. Valiant, are you aware of any of this, or do you have a comment on some of this? I figure this is more your domain.
I watched the video. I don't know about any of that. I'll be frank. I don't know where that's coming from. I don't know how on earth that's even fiscally possible. I would need a lot more information to render any kind of opinion one way or the other. To say that a mutual fund company is somehow going to wave a magic wand and cover a $3 billion loss that, to my knowledge, hasn't materialized anywhere with Disney on their books. I didn't understand it. I was completely baffled by this, and I felt like if there's more information that was there, that I'd love to see it, because it didn't make any sense to me. I didn't understand it. I mean, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I wish I could tell you more, but I did watch the video and I was baffled. And again, as far as FTX is concerned at this point, the list of creditors for FTX, everybody that has filed a claim for FTX for one thing or another, I mean, was listed in this massive bankruptcy court report that was made public by the court, by the judge. Any names of personal investors were redacted, of course, but names of corporate entities were left on the list. You had people like Google, you had Apple, you had, I think, maybe Amazon, you had people on there like Universal Studios, Comcast, that probably are owed money for advertising spots that FTX did. It kind of everything was lumped in. Disney wasn't anywhere on there. I mean, at this point, there is no paper trail connection anywhere between Disney and FTX that we can see. And you've got companies that are literally 5 and 10 times the market capitalization size of the Walt Disney Company that were on that list. So
Which doesn't mean they're not. It to me is almost glaring that they're so clean, right?
Well, maybe.
But,
on the
I don't know.
Chapek
side of things, I don't know about that connection. Like, the most I've heard, and I don't know how you interpret this either, is basically if there is involvement, it's people who are invested personally at the higher levels.
Yeah, Iger had a personal investment. We know that. Iger had a personal investment because Kevin O'Leary on CNBC let his name slip during a candid interview a few months ago when all that stuff broke. I can believe that because there was a lot of big media personalities, Hollywood types, that had money in FTX. I mean, that's not a secret. But, I mean, a $3 billion loss that BlackRock is... that part really makes no sense to me at all. I can't figure that one out.
Yeah, I can't comment on that. I don't understand how all that works. So, sorry, Walt, man. I can't give you a better answer than that. And I don't know if what VR said helps at all or not. So, but thank you. God King Dictator says, if they smart adapt Children of Huron, is 2-part film, then slowly build up adapting each story of Silmarillion. I can never say it right. I'm sure that they're gonna do. Look, it makes total sense to get some kind of film or film series in development. Get a series of sorts or 2 in development. Makes complete sense to me. If they have the rights to do it and things have been kind of sorted out and ironed out as far as that goes, I don't see why they wouldn't. They may not be able to do a TV series, that part they might not be able to do, but I don't see why they can't make film after film after film and just completely, keep sticking it to Amazon going, this is the real Lord of the Rings over here, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
That other shit is just fan shit, they're not even real fan shit, basically.
No, it's the stuff you see at the dollar store where you see the not
Yeah,
GI Joe, but
the
the GI
knockoffs.
Joe like.
Yeah, the cheap knockoffs.
GI Frank, that's what it is.
Yeah. Trooper guy, basically. Yeah. Pegasus Chronicle, if I'm saying that right, says, do Warner Brothers and Bracer have any TV rights at all? That's a good question. I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to go to, now Six has done a ton of research on this, and I'm sure it'll be coming up in a video at some point here that we've been kind of working on slowly in the background. I am not 100% sure. I believe they have some rights, but I think it has to be it all has to do with the links and the amount of, actually, I think they do, because that was the deal with the Amazon one, is they found a loophole in the rights, basically through the Tolkien estate, that they could do it as long as it didn't cover these books, these stories, and it had to be a TV series, and it had to be X amount of hours. So in that case, I think they do have some rights to that, so they very well could see, TV series set in Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings canon. And I don't see why they can't do that at this point. But I'd have to do further research. And Six is in the background. If she knows better, please let us know. But yeah. And we got a super sticker from Dearest who sends us a thumbs up. If you haven't hit that thumbs up yet, please do. There's almost 600, or there's over 600 to be watching. So please hit that thumbs up already. So Valiant, now that we've got you here, we've kind of covered the Lord of the Rings stuff, very little on the DC side of things. Haven't really gotten into much of the streaming talk or anything like that, or the numbers business, because I know that's all your domain, and I wouldn't know where to start because math is racist. But yeah, give us your breakdown, your overall takeaway from this earnings call to kind of give Klobby and Nick a little idea of what you heard, and because Script actually got to listen to it, I got to hear the tail end of it, but you were there covering it on your channel earlier today.
Yeah, we had a good crowd. Thanks everybody that's here that showed up for that. Had a lot of fun. Earnings calls, especially Warner Brothers, can always be really entertaining. Zaslav is always really entertaining, especially when you get to Q&A. But I made comments a few times during the show, especially when we got to the Q&A, that I think Zaslav was, trying to keep a hand over his mouth a little bit, because at the beginning of the call in the scripted section, they did announce that they're going to have a big, I think Zaslav's words were, a press event on April 12th, where it seems like what they were alluding to was much more detail would be coming forth on some of what Zaslav teased today, namely Lord of the Rings movies, Harry Potter universe or Wizarding World stuff. We've had rumors the last couple of days that they would indeed base something, maybe an HBO Max show, on Hogwarts Legacy, which is something that I said absolutely seemed like it would be impossible not to happen at this point last week after the initial sales figures came out for the game. And then, of course, DC and all this. So it seems like more details to come here in about 6 weeks at this point. So looking forward to that. As far as HBO, Warner Brothers, everything itself, financially, it seems like that Warner is a lot further along in this restructuring process than almost anybody would have possibly anticipated they could be at this point just 9-10 months ago when that spinoff happened with AT&T. And the financials are getting much better. HBO Max is doing very well. Their DTC is doing, now still losing money, but by comparison, I mean, we've had one solid year of every quarter of Disney Plus posting these big losses. I'll put this in perspective. DTC losses, direct-to-consumer losses for Warner, totaled $1.5 billion for the whole fiscal year of 2022. Disney was losing about that much every quarter on DTC. Warner Brothers has 96 million DTC subs. Disney has over 200 if you include ESPN and Hotstar and Hulu and all that kind of stuff combined. So you can kind of see the economies of scale here. HBO Max isn't as big as Disney Plus, even if you throw out Hulu and ESPN. But they're definitely doing a lot better. This past quarter, DTC losses were down to 200 million, and the big thing is that David Zaslav seemed to hint at some guidance here for the current quarter with DTC financial status, HBO Max, being that they might be very close to a break even by the end of this quarter, which is just a few weeks away, March 31st. That would be phenomenal. That would be absolutely phenomenal. And they think that there'll be a plus $1 billion in operating income for DTC by, I think, next year, which would be bonkers. Absolutely bonkers.
They'd be the first to do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, now again, I want to stipulate that we're talking about DTC, right? We're not talking about linear broadcast HBO per se. That's still,
no, it's on demand, direct to consumer. Yeah.
Right. No, just for the audience. I know you know, but just for I don't want people to conflate HBO Max and HBO. Even though it's got a lot of the same content, they are two separate, different line items out there. Which is why when you go to Nielsen every week and you look at the ratings and you'll see The Last of Us, for example, you have to go over to acquired content to find The Last of Us on the chart for HBO Max, because it's not HBO Max original. It's HBO original. HBO Max, it's considered acquired. So, anyway, but yeah, it's good stuff. It's all good stuff.
And that's interesting too, because I know I brought up to you that I had to concede a little bit on, I didn't like the idea of them changing HBO Max's name eventually, which they're going to do, but I understand why, because I had heard or read that basically that HBO is more associated with adult entertainment.
Yeah.
So they need to try and figure out a way to broadcast to America and the rest of the world that this is not just for adults. This isn't just HBO oriented. But the problem is, and this is what I was pointing out on your stream, was that they don't have real brand recognition like Disney does. Like Disney is a lifestyle brand. Apple is almost like a lifestyle brand. Warner's isn't that. But you were saying that you think Zaslav is trying to do that though with Warner.
Yeah, they're trying to rebrand that whole DTC enterprise to where, I mean, they've done the research and they know that the HBO name has a very mature, perspective associated with it, to where, well, I don't want I don't want little Timmy watching HBO, right? Because we all grew up with HBO. Yep. We, kind of have that. Not that it was bad, but it was unedited R-rated movies that were in theaters and all this kind of stuff. So I understand that
associated with adult entertainment.
Yeah, they got to figure out something, But the big thing I found interesting was the Discovery Plus service. Even though the content is going to be combined in with a package with HBO Max,
he's still keeping it separate, though.
Still keeping it separate. That seems to lend credence to the idea that they might try to sell the Warner Brothers portion in a few years.
Interesting.
Which makes sense, because I mean, if Zaslav could then walk away without having to do much anything except put it in the contract that, well, I still have Discovery Plus as a completely segregated streaming service. He could still license the content to whoever buys Warner, in theory, to keep on the HBO Max streaming service, where he would still walk away with Discovery and all of its content and basically be a content producer like Warner Brothers is now for so many other streamers. It's just funny the way that happened.
Well, we've got the numbers kind of side of things. Script, from the creative side of things, what were your takeaways from the earnings call, since you got to listen to the whole
I like the fact that he was more interested in quality over quantity. Spending the right dollars, making sure the product that they're making gets out and that they hit the broadest audience they can with things that people want to see. He mentioned that multiple times, which is great little dig over at Disney and Amazon, because Amazon is a bit more touch and go, because they have released a few shows that people really wanted to see and enjoyed. But for Disney Plus, for the most part, they have not really released any content that has really broken any records or set any standard of quality. So Zaslav leaning into the story aspect of things and saying, yeah, we're going to put our money where our mouth is. We're going to throw good money after good money and not release something until it's absolutely ready to be released. I think that's a very smart move. It might cost them some marketing windows of opportunity within certain periods of the year where they can best take advantage of the audience. But I think they're relying more on the quality of the content itself to generate interest, as opposed to trying to score that Labor Day or 4th of July weekend.
Yeah.
I think that's a smart move.
Yeah, because that was something I had actually brought up on Valiant Stream, is that they needed something like the Game of Thrones hit they had and recently with Last of Us. But as Valiant pointed out, that's actually an HBO show proper, not so much for the streaming side of things. So do you think that that's going to be their next big goal, is to try and find something of that caliber that's directly for the streaming service? Because they do need that Stranger Things or that, whatever kind of show to kind of give them that
They
boost,
need an
I
it
think.
show. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. They need that it show. The other part too, which is I don't know why they didn't do this, because they really could have pushed some more numbers for their streaming service, especially for HBO Max, if they said it's not streaming, it's HBO Max, just like what HBO was. It's not TV, it's HBO. That would provide a bit more credence and prestige, and maybe would have
True.
opened up a little bit extra of a market on it. But again, I think they're kind of smart to sort of rename it. Whatever they do, I really hope they don't put a plus in there.
Right.
Or a
It's
max
gonna
or
allow
a
them to
plus.
down.
stand
Yeah.
out. Anything that allows them to stand out a bit more would be beneficial to Warner Brothers.
Yeah, I agree. I think the HBO moniker already helped them stand out more, and it sucks they didn't go with that's a perfect, like, in the average, from what I come from my advertising side of things, that would have been like, yeah, go with that. Like, that was your bread and butter back in the day. In fact, I would have really hyped it up and gone with, like, sell the nostalgia of HBO, man. Like, what it was, what it meant, like that kind of a thing. But you're right, they're beyond that now. They need to come up with some kind of new.
I would
I don't know
probably
what-
do something like Warner Brothers Online, just because you're technically using the internet to stream it, and it's
Yeah.
WBO, so it's kind of like HBO, so you're only changing one letter. And
Well, I've been hearing like Warner Discovery streaming, or Warner Discovery Plus is what it's probably going to be called. It's basically.
but hey, they could do that, but that might cause. I mean, if the rumors are true and Zaslav is prepping to sell the Warner Brothers studio side of things away from Discovery in the future, naming the streaming service to have Discovery
Right.
associated with it would cause the new company to have to rebrand it again, and that would be 3 times within 8 years we're looking at, theoretically, if that outcome were to be the case. So that would not be a good move. They would have to come up. It would be smarter for them to come up with a name that's wholly dedicated to Warner Brothers and what they are. That doesn't have the Discovery moniker attached to it if they intend to sell in the future. Now,
Right.
if they do release it and it is Warner Brothers Discovery, I would say that might be the first key to think that maybe Discovery is not going to be divested from Warner Brothers for a sale.
Yeah.
Maybe they finally got all the information from the courts to realize that, yeah, only a handful of companies that can buy it probably won't be able to due to antitrust laws. And so that's probably going to be they're probably stuck with this situation for the foreseeable future, if that's the case.
I think I understand where they got this from, and I don't know if Valiant, you agree with this or not, and then we'll get Clobby and Nick's take on all this now that they've been able to take all this in. But I wonder if they took a look at what Paramount Plus did, because originally it was CBS All Access,
Mm-hmm.
and that tanked. But then the moment they switched it to Paramount Plus and they started kind of rebranding themselves, it did help.
Yes.
And I wonder if that's what they paid attention to. And I think that's where the talk of, okay, HBO is associated with adult entertainment. We need to, same thing with, that was the problem with CBS was associated with your grandpa's entertainment, right? Like,
Yeah.
that was the
CBS
problem.
is less known of a brand than Paramount. That's the other part too, right?
To a point, you could,
Paramount has over 100 years,
they do, but
reputation.
CBS as a network.
CBS is a network with about 70 years technically ish. At that, like, listen, everybody remembers Paramount. Everybody knows the iconic Paramount Mountain. Some people kind of forget that CBS's logo is an eye. It's not really impactful.
Well, that's what I was saying. It was more associated with old. It was an old brand, but Paramount, on the other hand, just the meaning of the word Paramount itself, kind of lends itself to this idea. Now, adding the plus to it whether or not you want to argue that helped or not, doesn't matter. The fact is they rebranded it as an idea that this isn't CBS, this is Paramount, this is all of our things. And Paramount does have some prestige attached to it. That I agree with, Scribner. That's where I get where you're coming from. And that's where I could not understand in a million years why when Disney bought 20th Century Fox, they allowed the Fox to go away. They let the Murdochs have the Fox part of it. I'm like, are you stupid? Like, you're buying the logo, right? You're buying 20th Century Fox, something that's been associated with films for over 100+ years, and then you want to sit here and say that Fox is more associated with TV now? It's only been a network for 20 years, and it was only tangentially attached to 20th Century Fox.
I mean, in terms of getting that, I mean, Disney, obviously, they could not get the broadcast network. There's no way the FCC
No, and it doesn't matter.
That,
what I would have done is I would have made the Murdochs change their name. It shouldn't have been Fox News anymore. It should have been something else completely. Same
Murdoch
thing with the
News.
Fox network.
They
exactly.
probably would have made Disney raise the price another $20 million for that. Or $20
I don't
billion.
care. If I was buying it, that's what I would be buying. I'm buying the 20th Century fucking Fox logo for a fucking reason. You know, and I said that then. It's like, you tell me hum me the Universal theme right now. You could hum me the Paramount theme right now. You probably couldn't because you don't even know it. The Warner Brothers theme, same difference. You could possibly do it because they brought it back in the last few years. You probably couldn't. But hum me that fucking 20th Century Fox theme. Everybody can do it.
Yeah.
Even a little kid can do it, because I know when I was a little kid, every darn time I heard bump, 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 coming from the other room, I'm like, shit,
Yep.
Star Wars is on. And if it wasn't Star Wars, I would be so fucking depressed. So like, it's not Star Wars. Fuck.
Well, you know, let me tell you, the CBS thing was interesting, the CBS All Access. And I can tell you, as somebody at that time who, again, coming in blind, right? This was before I really started paying attention from the business side of the streaming wars. I saw when CBS came out with this streaming service and they said, hey, you can get CBS All Access for $5 a month. I looked at that and I said, why the hell am I going to pay $5 a month for CBS? I have an antenna that gets an
Right.
over-the-air broadcast for free. What the piss is on here? Because so I can go watch. I mean, at the time they were touting Star Trek Discovery. I'm like, it's not worth it. I didn't even know
The only
anything.
thing CBS All Access had over anybody was it was a better name than Peacock.
Well, but at least Peacock doesn't say NBC Plus. I mean, give them credit for
It
that,
should.
because if they said NBC Plus, they'd have the same problem as CBS All Access, I think.
No, I
because
agree. It should be Universal Streaming.
Exactly.
Or Universal Plus.
Use the name of the studio, because when you see, it's like, this is a broadcast television station that has been over the air for free since forever and a day. Why the piss am I going to pay $5 a month for this? Even though they've put on more stuff, I get they have exclusive content, but you have to realize, for the average person out there, they don't get that. That was a terrible branding decision. That was absolutely stupid. And I'm glad that they fixed it, because, look, Paramount Plus has done much better. Just like when you say Disney, or when you say,
Yeah.
you know, HBO gets a pass. They don't have to call it Warner necessarily, because HBO has been a premium cable channel movie name now for 40 years or whatever it's been.
Well, and they've only been associated with Warner for what? 20 some of that years? Because it was
20. when Time Warner bought.
Yeah, I was going to say when Time Warner was bought out, because it was used to be, because it was part of the whole deal. Yeah, so.
Yeah, that whole thing. You had AOL Time Warner. Remember that? Oh, my God.
So in
Back
actuality,
yeah.
that's what I was saying. Is like HBO technically, and they're smart on that part. I disagree. I'm like resistant to it, but I get where they're coming from. Like, even calling it HBO Max made sense to me, because it was combining HBO and Cinemax.
Yeah.
You know, which was their two, you know, networks. So like,
Adult-oriented networks.
yeah. But yeah, that's the problem. I get it. I totally get why they want to change it now. But to me, it's like, is it too late in the game to fucking change it? Like, that's the other question. But Klobby, as somebody who's like been listening to this for a little bit here, what's your take on everything? Does anything stand out to you, or anything you're concerned about?
No, it's kind of too early to tell about any of this stuff. But yeah, this is more in Valiant's wheelhouse than mine. So I don't know much about it. I just start hearing about it. So I'm afraid I don't have much on it.
Well, we didn't hear much about DC talk today, but are you glad to hear that they're not going to be rushing into things? I mean, at least
Yeah, I don't buy into it. For one thing, I think they're gonna puke out that next Aquaman movie and let it sink or swim. Sorry for the pun.
no, it's
Yeah.
puns
To be
needed.
fair, that movie's been done for a while now. Let's not
Yeah,
get that cloudy. That thing has been
yeah,
It's
sitting on
been
the
done
shelf.
and done.
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah.
That thing's been in the Batcave for a while.
Yeah. So no, I don't know.
Nick,
I thought
anything
the
stick out
very
to you?
monotone reading of Zaslav saying James Gunn loves The Flash, the best movie ever made.
It's the great,
Yeah,
Yes.
you're really selling it there, David.
it is the greatest
I know,
superhero
right?
movie made of
Oh.
all time, says James Gunn. You must consume it.
It was
What
better
really-
than Cats. He will watch it again and again.
Oh,
And
look,
again,
I love David, but his script is right. He's not a public speaker. I get it, but as a business guy, I love him. And like I told people on the call, I'm like, what do you expect him to come out and say? Look, we're
No,
real sorry about this movie. It's gonna suck.
No,
No, not that.
When he answers questions, he's great. But like he was reading that
Yeah.
statement, and compared to what he was reading in his statement when he was talking about Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, as soon as he
Oh.
went to the Flash and said that James Gunn quoted this, he was like flat toned. Or
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He was. Yeah, I got you. Okay. Yeah.
So sorry, Nick. Anyway, what's your takeaways from all
you're
this?
all good. I'm enjoying this conversation. Seriously, I'm just enjoying. Listening to what Valiant has said earlier, which I thank you for wording in a way that I can actually kind of comprehend it too. Usually, when I hear this stuff, most of the time it kind of flies over my head. So thank you, by the way. I'm like when you speak about, I'm like, okay, I actually kind of understand that. I don't feel totally dumb about this. It's nice to hear a big giant, movie corporation trying to say, okay, we need to not be so stupid as far as how our spending goes, because this is something every studio and their mother has been doing. And it seems like they want to try to be on the track to not be in like a heap of debt like everyone else, where everyone just doesn't think about economics ever. So it's nice to see it for a change. Now, as far as the DC stuff, I mean, I'm going to say I'm with Clawby. That's a wait and see what happens if they actually mean that. Now, if they end up, doing that, I'll be the first one to say, you know what? Here you go. Here's my video saying, congratulations. You're taking your time with it, because I don't want them to feel like they have to catch up to anyone or anything. Let this thing breathe. Let us digest it. Let us become invested. So, yeah, I'm just anxious to see product under this regime, but obviously it's going to be at least another year before we can get to that point. So as of now, things sound good. Now I'm just waiting to see action take place.
Well, that's a good assessment, I would say. Let's see what the crowd is saying here. We got Aurora Uplinks, who sent in a couple of super chats here, starting with this one, who says, tax return arrived. Well, congratulations. So anyway, I still have to see Bob Chapek produced movie where he chooses the script or helps write one, executive produce. Well, I think we're technically in that regime area now, because wasn't Ant-Man within his purview, or was that well, actually that would have been greenlit before he probably took over either way.
It was
But
greenlit before he came in, and then Iger stepped in and basically made it worse with the reshoots.
Right. Well, and the problem you have here is that Chapek technically, even though he was there for 3 years, he was only in charge of things for what, 11, not even 12 months. He wasn't even there for a full year, technically in charge of shit. And most productions take more than a year to get off the ground anyway. And I'm willing to bet that anything he probably greenlit late in the game that hadn't been too far forward probably got shit canned when Iger came in the door. I don't know if you know anything specifically on that, Valiant, but that would be my guess.
As far as, I'm sorry, I had the dog.
Basically, like we were saying, is like most of these productions take so long that a lot of the shit, like I was saying, there's such a small window of when Chapek was running the game.
Oh,
movies take 2-3 years to develop and get out, that I wonder if anything he did greenlight in his purview is even going to see the light of day. Or
well, he got the Hugh Jackman Deadpool thing going.
That's about the only thing I know of. That's the problem.
Yeah. I mean, that was definitely under his banner. I don't know what else. It's so hard to say because the dude literally had 10 months and 2 weeks.
That's what I was trying to figure out.
To really have a point. And that was 10 months and 2 weeks while Iger was still there as a paid consultant for the Walt Disney Company, which is why he didn't actually give up his freaking office in the C-suite in Burbank. What do
Yeah.
you do? I mean, God. And he's going to have 4 years and 2 months left on that consultant contract when he retires again at the end of 24.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, outside of Deadpool 3, I'm not even sure. Then Aurora says, I want to see what he is capable of. I suspect he's really good at the arts and got stuck being a bean counter and his only way in Big D. If you're still referring to Chapek, he always kind of was a bean counter.
Yeah, I don't know where you're getting the art stuff from. On that,
Yeah,
but-
no. I don't know on that part. If you're referring to him, yeah. Unless you're talking about Zaslav here, which I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Pegasus Chronicle says if Snyder versus dead, DC intern is dead to me. Well, that's fair for you.
Okay.
They might license a little piece of it out to him on Netflix. There was some there's some talk on that.
That's not what
February
that means,
30th.
though,
Oh, okay.
because they're not going to sell to Netflix and have Netflix split the bill. They'll be like, oh yeah, Netflix will be a distributor to some of our DC stuff. That doesn't mean
Yeah.
that they're producing anything.
No,
Well,
Valiant
no,
fell for
yeah.
my little joke is what he was referring to.
Oh, okay. I remember seeing something about that. I said, well, my thought
Yeah.
was it kind of made sense to where if they wanted to peel off little bits and pieces, like you can't touch Superman,
Oh, so you
can't
still
touch Batman,
you still
can't
thought
touch.
that was serious? You do
No.
realize there is no 30th of February, right?
I didn't look at the whole thing. I just remember reading something. I'm sorry.
It's like April Fools before April Fools,
The
man.
thing is that any piece that they quote unquote would sell off or license off would corrupt their rights deal that the studios have on the characters, and that's the last thing Warner Brothers would want to do.
That makes sense.
No, basically James Gunn said in the nicest of terms that we haven't had any conversations with them and go fuck yourself. We're not going to.
And he also said that Netflix isn't interested in that.
But Tom,
Yeah.
it's coming back, man.
It's totally coming back. No.
Is-
Yeah,
is
he
all
said
coming
that, well, not just Netflix script, he also said basically Zack Snyder has moved on in so many words.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's a
basically.
smoke. That's a head fake. He's coming back, and it's being made right now.
Yeah, that's the problem. You got the Snyder fans out there going, yeah, it's like they've become totally like freaking like
They're a cult now.
it
You got one in
is.
the
It's
chat
like
right there.
he's
Snyder
like,
versus
don't
Zack.
listen to what he's saying, but look into what he's saying and read it. It's like you can sit there and pretend all day long that people are trying to tell you messages. Snyder knows how to fuck with you guys.
He does.
He knows exactly how
He's
to
a
get you guys
manipulator.
going.
Yeah,
And
Just
that's
can't
part
get
of the
them into
problem.
theater.
facts.
Well, that's
And
because
I'm
he's
not
only
even
got
saying
so
that.
many people he can fool.
Yeah.
I'm not
I'm not
trying to
saying
be
I was
mean to
just
anybody.
aiming
If you're
for
a
him.
Snyder fan, that's fine. But
Mhm.
he is giving people false hope. That's what I mean by this. His
Yeah, he
little
does.
teases of stupid bullshit that mean nothing. And I think that's why James Gunn had to kind of snuff it out. I mean, he has been very, political in a lot of his answers, but that was one where clearly, I mean, he couldn't have been much more clear than to say, like I said, fuck off with the Snyder thing already. Like,
I actually would not be opposed to him saying that, and
he never
Because
would, but yeah.
I know he won't. Obviously, that I know they've gone along at some point.
Well,
in
no, yeah, you got to
time.
remember they started together. He wrote
Yes.
Dawn of the Dead.
Yes, that's not lost
Yeah, they
on
know
me.
each other.
I get it. So I'm sure there's at least some level of respect there. It's just like they gotta let it go. Like seriously, it's not going to happen. Like
Yeah.
guys, you have your movies to enjoy. You got the Snyder cut that you wanted. Like
Look, and I understand there's
you
two
know
or
what?
three
You
different
should-
kinds of
you should
Snyder
thank
fans.
You
Yeah.
can thank the virus from unknown origins for why you got that, because that's the only reason why the movie came out, because it was a Hail Mary. That's all it was. It was a Hail Mary to hope that they could try to survive throughout that whole situation. Now,
Well, going back to
do
what
I
we were
know that
talking about
there's
earlier,
costs? Yeah.
that's what that was. That was their Mandalorian. That was their
yeah.
Game of
Oh,
Thrones. That was,
absolutely.
or whatever, their new
Yeah.
thing they were trying to. They're like, okay, well, if this works, and that was it. It didn't work.
Mhm.
And that's what I keep trying to tell people. Why do you think James Gunn is here? Why do you think we're even going past what Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi were even thinking about at that one point? Because it didn't fucking work.
Yeah.
Like, even
No,
The Rock
exactly.
and Henry Cavill couldn't get people's ass in the seats. That's what people aren't understanding here. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to
Yeah.
be a dick to anybody. I get it. I didn't even hate Black Adam. I thought it was fun. I'd probably watch it again, no problem. Same thing with Shazam and some of the other films. But when it comes to the Snyderverse, if it was this big, huge hit, and we had this huge following that they like to think there is, and I'm just talking about that select few Snyder kids who just can't let it go. That's what I'm talking about here. I'm not trying to diss on anybody else who's a fan of this shit. I'm just saying, look, I get it. You were into it. But it's gone. It's done. It's over with. It had its 10-year fucking run. Mm-hmm. It's over. In fact, like I said, yes, the other, what I don't remember what stream I was on, but I think it even made Script laugh where I said, I can't wait till these fuckers, it dawns on them when they're sitting in Flash and realize, oh shit, this is Man of Steel all over again, only with a chick.
Exactly, it is.
Well, it's really difficult to convince them it's done because they're like that guy that goes to the strip club and doesn't pay attention that all the strippers have a cesarean scar on them, and they're just like, no, it's just a tattoo
right next to that bullet hole in her ass,
crease, a muscle crease. Like, no, man, that's
actually, I got a little bit better analogy along the same lines. One of the first times I ever went to a strip club, they had it was for my cousin's bachelor party, and they had this big advertisement that this big, huge, like, porn/stripper star from Las Vegas was there, and all these pictures about she's this hottest thing in the world. All these pictures up all over the place. They bring her ass out on stage. She is the dumpiest, frumpiest looking fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. Her tits nearly hit her knees, right? Like,
I think I've been to that strip club.
That's what I feel like they're going to feel like when they get out, because they think they're going to get this thing, and it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah,
like her prime was 10 years ago.
Breasts that looked like socks filled with loose change type of thing going on.
Exactly. Stretch marks and all. Like, just...
Well, you should have been, theoretically speaking, you should have been...
It's a little less gross than your story, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. No. Yep.
But it actually happened, so it has, basis in truth.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah, let's just say, needless to say, we left at that point. We're like, okay, we're done here.
Wow.
We're going to the next place. Yeah, fuck this noise.
You weren't the
we don't need to put you don't need to put money in Granny's G-string there.
Oh God. Oh.
Yeah, they made this big, huge deal out of it too. Like she's some big Vegas showgirl and all this shit. It's like, yeah, maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
She was a big Vegas showgirl back in 1932.
Yeah. Back before the mob took over.
Oh man.
Mo Green was there, and he
the first stripper to get the right to vote.
She was actually hired by Mo Green. Yeah,
Mo Green had her first. I'm done. I'm sorry.
She was beautiful. Let me tell you something else. She was the greatest piece of ass I ever had.
Oh God. All right.
Sorry, Godfather moment there.
Gotta breathe.
You got Mo Greened in the eye with that fucking tit when she swung around. I'll tell you what.
Wow.
Broke the glasses first.
All of it. Yeah.
Wow.
No, we had some fun that night, but that was not fun. That was like one of those moments where you're like, okay, we're leaving. Like, yeah, it was bad.
Been there.
Primark Vulcan says, wouldn't Disney's name not being on the court documents for FTX case possibly be an indicator that they're trying to hide something illegal they may have done by not drawing attention to themselves? Again, I even pointed out that it was very glaring that like all these other companies were and they weren't. And we know for a fact that Bob Iger's name was dropped, right? So like, again, Valiant, you were saying it's very plausible, but at this point, you're really kind of grasping for some major conspiracy theory elements when it comes to Chapek, I think.
Yeah. Look, here's the thing. Let me take this in order. So wouldn't Disney's name not being on the court docs for FTX possibly be an indicator that they're trying to hide something illegal? My name wasn't on court docs as a possible assassin for JFK. That doesn't mean that, you can't use that as a legal argument, right? Everybody else's name. Again, I go back to the fact that you had Apple, you had Google, you had some of the companies that have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times the market capitalization of the Walt Disney Company. And they went on the list. They went on the list. They were like, yeah, look, we had money invested in this, or they owed us money, or we put money here, and we're going on the credit. We're going to be one of the creditors. We might never see a dime. You report it to your stockholders. Hey, we did this in good faith. We got scammed like everybody else did. Let's move on. I don't know. I cannot figure out the reason that the Walt Disney Company would want to conceal that, number one. Number two, the other part of it is this.
Because then they would be able to get some money back, right?
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you want to try to get some money? You tell the stockholders, hey, look, we got taken for a ride like everybody else. What's the big deal? Why try to hide it and commit a federal crime that not only comes with fines, but it would put half the top officers in at Disney in freaking federal prison? Okay? That's number two. The other part of it is this. Disney was looking at getting involved in crypto. They partnered up with, Polygon to do non-fungible tokens. So if they had a partner in Polygon, I don't know. I don't know a lot about crypto, to be very frank. But I don't know why they would then go invest in FTX. If they were,
I know he's the wonder dog.
Yeah, I can tell you anything you need to know about him.
yeah. So I don't know. There is, to this point, and I will restate this again. If there is ever any actual evidence that somehow connects these two entities, Robert Iger retired like a lot of people, and he had personal money invested in FTX because that was the big trendy thing for people in his circle at that time. Again, Kevin O'Leary, you can go look up the interview he did with CNBC. Kevin O'Leary, it's all over YouTube, where he drops Iger's name by accident. Well, not really by accident, but he mentions it in the conversation. There is, at this point, no conversation. Now, this issue with $3 billion of losses or something with investment in FTX, that BlackRock is going to what? Stroke a check? I don't think people really understand how institutional investors and mutual fund companies like BlackRock work. Yeah, they push in all the ESG, DEI stuff. But, shoving piles of money into companies, I mean, you realize that BlackRock, based on its market capitalization, is like half of that of the Walt Disney Company? Where does this $3 billion come from? Again, there's a lot of this to where, okay, I'm willing to listen. This is an interesting story. But if you understand how the business world and finance works, anybody in my position would look at this and go, there's a lot of information here missing, because I can't make this make sense with reality. I don't know how to.
No, and I don't know enough about it either. So this is.
I mean, I'd love to hear more if there really is a connection there. I just don't have enough information. I'll leave it there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know much about it either, but I'm looking at that. I'm thinking, well, where did BlackRock get that money?
Well, we're hearing that a lot of the cutting is coming in the DEI departments, right? And that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow morning with Cameron on the show.
Yeah, BlackRock pushes a lot of that kind of stuff down, and these institutional investors with DEI and ESG, like BlackRock, JP Morgan Chase Bank, all this, they get to push that down. Why? Because they have voting power. In the case of BlackRock, they have 8% of Disney stock. They can push an issue because they have the board of directors by the nuts. You can do it as a JP Morgan Chase Bank by virtue of the fact that, hey, look, we issue you $500 million a year, $1 billion a year in lines of credit to operate your business. We need you to come to this seminar, and we need you to learn about DEI. And they'll all do it. They'll show up and go, yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to do this, make signed contracts. As far as we're going to cover some phantom losses that never appeared on a balance sheet, never appeared in a financial report for the Walt Disney Company. Again, we are talking about federal prison time here for stuff like this. This is why people like at Enron and stuff went to jail. You have to convince me, what is the benefit here of a Christine McCarthy or other people that would have been involved in this kind of thing to risk absolute career and life ending situations for themselves, instead of just like Apple and Google going, dude, this was a bad investment. We're sorry. We filed with the court and we're moving on. Let's go. Let's go sell more iPhones. Let's go sell more Marvel. I can't figure this one out. I don't know. I don't get it.
Speaking of moving on, the God King dictator sends in 14 South African rands and says CBS's other problem was their flagships all suck. Sort of. Here's where I think Moonves went completely wrong. And this is taking a play out of what Paramount should obviously learned with their lessons of losing Yellowstone to Peacock, basically, in the end of the day. CBS could have and should have used a CSI spinoff to launch CBS All Access instead of Star Trek. There, I fucking said it. That's the honest to God truth. If they had done that instead, we'd be having a different conversation. Because, sorry, Star Trek is not this huge fucking franchise they wanted to think it was. CSI, on the other hand, was one of the biggest fucking shows on television for 20 years. And
it still is.
It
They've got a
still
number of
is.
spin-offs, yeah.
I was just going to say, and it still gets watched endlessly.
I think
It's
the
one of
only
the-
one that NCIS is the one that kind of ended, and then even their spin-offs have ended, if I'm not mistaken, unless there's one more.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And they
no,
fucked
CSI is huge.
themselves. They should have. They should have done a direct to streaming CSI spinoff, and that would have launched CBS All Access so much better than what Star Trek did. That was their first mistake. The other mistake was then alienating that Star Trek fan base that they did have. Because they didn't own some of their bigger shows. Like, they don't own Big Bang Theory, right? They Warner Brothers owns that, if I remember right. And so, like, in that sense, like, CSI was one of their babies, and that's where they fucked up, if you ask me. But Pilgrim Media says, why can Batgirl get green?
No, why can Batgirl but greenlight Velma? I'm stumped.
Oh,
Why can Batgirl? Look, Velma, I don't even know if it's getting a second season. I've been hearing rumors that whoever it was that said that, some producer or writer or whatever on the show, may have jumped the gun.
Velma's cheaper. It was probably
Yeah.
finished before Batgirl.
Yep.
yeah.
I was just gonna say, yeah.
Was it
there's
cheaper
all
by
that
a
too.
landslide? Batgirl was 90 million. Velma was what? Maybe 10 or 15? Or something like that?
if you'd be lucky to get that, yeah, you
And
can.
look, and
that
I've even mentioned that even though Zaslav is conservative leaning and he is trying to make money, that doesn't mean he's going to kill everything that's woke. He does know there's still audiences for certain things, and he also needs data points.
Yeah,
Something like Velma is a huge fucking data point now. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
If I may-
like, nothing like this ever again, because look how bad it recorded.
I hope he learns from this that social media and stuff like Twitter is not where you gauge an audience, because likes and retweets do not translate into sales numbers. And this is something a lot of studios are getting horribly wrong. They're thinking, "Oh, look at all these people who are going viral. This must be the perception of the world." And look at how it's turned into. Let's just say 80 and 90% of these types of products that they want to push out, they bomb like crazy. And they got to stop using that as metrics. Like, whatever they were doing before Twitter, they need to figure out that, or figure out a way to modernize without going to Twitter, because Twitter.
Well, even the
not
woke folk
helping
are
them.
turning against Velma. Now, Valiant, you were about to say something.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, I think you said it in the interim, and that was that Zaslav has made it pretty clear that they're going to effectively spend money according to the audience, right? And I'm paraphrasing, but that's where he's going with it. So, yeah, look, I don't mind making a show like Velma for $5 million or $10 million, whatever the hell they got to make that show, right? Because there's an audience that's worthy of a $5 million spend to make that show. We got enough of an audience to justify that budget. Velma at $30 million is a trash fire, you know, and that's I'm kind of just trying to give you an example, but you have to spend the money according to what audiences are going to watch. And, you know, you can't spend Batgirl on the other side of things. $90 million for that movie was obviously to Zaslav and company. This is a dumpster fire. Write it off right now, because there's no way that we're going to spend another $90 million trying to market this donkey turd, and we're never going to see this money again. Get rid of it.
There you go.
I killed the show.
No. Devil's Due says Snyder Bros are just a Star Wars sequel shows and drag. Well, I don't know if I'd go that far, but it's I do want to be clear though that I'm not talking about every Snyder fan. I'm talking about those few that just will not let it go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, absolutely. Just the bots, the bros. Yeah. Not anyone. You know, everybody.
I just don't think they realize how ridiculous this whole sell it to Netflix thing sounds. Like, it's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. It's never gonna happen. It's dumber than when Filmation tried to reinvigorate their Ghostbusters to stick it to Ghostbusters, the movies, real Ghostbusters spinoff. Like, did you really think that you were gonna have a shot in the dark here with this? I mean, we get it, you're spurned, but this is just kind of like fucking petty shit, man. Like,
listen, the sell Zack Snyder verse to Netflix is as equally as absurd as saying sell Star Wars to Netflix. It's not going to happen.
No. And why would they have two competing universes? It makes zero sense. It just doesn't.
No, but I guarantee you that with Warner Brothers produces a couple of DC films or some shows that have finished their debut on streaming, they'll probably license those shows onto Netflix to try and generate interest through Netflix to go to their streaming platform in the future. Because that's some of the stuff that Zaslav was talking about with the 60% of the back catalog they have that's not really tracking on HBO. They can put on other platforms like Tubi and Roku. And if people want to subscribe to HBO Max, they can now see what they'll get. They'll get a taste of what that is on the advertised version streaming service.
This is where Zaslav, I don't know if he's directly said anything about it, but I know that this is probably part of the reason for this. Remember the huge deal they got for Friends just for the last, a year or two before it got moved back over to HBO Max? It was like,
at Netflix, it's huge. It was several
fucking
$100 million.
Yeah, it was huge. And I'm sure he's looking at that like, why did we just turn our backs on this shit? Makes no fucking sense. That's what they're doing right now. And so he's smart in that respect. He's like, we got to get this back out there. What do you think, Valiant? I know you got to run here. So like, I mean, that's where I think he saw like the kind of money they were making doing that kind of thing, selling shows and movies to Netflix and other places. Yeah. It's like,
well, and he even said that during the call, Tom. He even made a comment about, I can't remember exactly how he said it. Something we're a studio that creates stories, or we're a storytelling studio, even if it's not distributed by Warner Brothers. I mean, that kind of thing. And that's what he wants to kind of recapture. And he realizes the fact that the power of Warner Brothers is not just what may fly on their own DTC or their own broadcast channels or their own cinematic or theatrical distribution wing, but it's the power and the content that we produce that goes out into the ether to other broadcasters, to other streamers. We just produce good stories, and Zaslav is trying to find, what do we need to do in terms of the content we produce? What do we keep here? What do we license away? And obviously he's standing on the fact that, look, our pillars for this company in-house are Harry Potter, are DC, and they're Lord of the Rings. And effectively everything else that we might produce could theoretically be on the table. What do we want to do with it? Now that doesn't mean everything else is going to get licensed out, but that's what they're trying to get back to. Just like they did today, people were asking about, one of the analysts for, I can't remember who, I think it was one of the last calls, asked about, well, you're talking about making a free service or exploring this or that. How come we're licensing this to Tubi and to Roku with some of these things? And I was like, I'm thinking to myself, well, it's really easy answer, because that's what we can get money for right now. I don't need to keep the first 2 seasons of this show, that show, and the other show on Warner Brothers, on HBO Max, when nobody's watching them, and they can be farmed out to Tubi and Roku, and they're going to pay us millions of dollars to licensing these things. The Script talked about this a while back. I've talked about this a while back. We posited, look, Netflix, take the first 2 seasons of Stranger Things. License them out. License them out to somebody else, to a Tubi or a Roku. Nobody's watching them on Netflix. Why leave dead content in your library on your streaming service when things can go elsewhere? And they can do that with some of the other properties they have that they can produce shows. Right. Look at what CBS does. The biggest shows CBS makes are Wheel of Fortune, Judge Judy, Jeopardy, and they're syndicated. I mean, they're still look at the Nielsen ratings every week.
Yep.
That's what they
I
need
think
to
it's
go
called
back to.
Judy Justice now, but yeah,
whatever it is. Yeah.
Whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had a deal. She changed her deal, but yeah. But no, as you're heading out the door here, Valiant, you've shocked Eric K.
Yes, I'm
What?
sorry.
Valiant Renegade was behind JFK.
That's right.
He
Several
was small
years
enough to
before I
hide
was.
in the grassy knoll. So yeah.
I was just a wee little boy. God, I wish. No, I'm not even that old. But yeah. So,
God damn it, Valiant.
I'm sorry. I'll stop talking now. Anyway, thanks for having me, guys. No, I gotta get ready. I gotta go record some other stuff today. Oh, God damn it!
Jonas says, "New here. Who's David Zaslav? Is he Valiant Renegade's cousin?"
Yes, he's
Yes.
my alter ego, you bastard. So, yeah,
Very
take care,
technical
Valiant, and
Eastern
thank
accent.
you.
yeah,
You good, buddy?
I will say this since the subject came up earlier and people were asking about the whole Disney FTX thing. I'm having a conversation tonight, actually recording. It should be out tomorrow, Saturday. It's going to be me and Pro and Cameron Pasha. So stay tuned. Maybe that comes up. We'll talk about that a little bit more because I know people have questions about it. And again, it's a matter of I'm ready to see the evidence, and that's fine. And I'll be happy to eat my hat. I'll be so happy to eat my hat. But right now, that's just kind of where I'm at. But I think it'll be fun with Pro and Cameron and I talking because I think some people out there in the audience, chat in general, because I get in comments on my videos all the time now and other places. People think, oh, you hate each other. No, we don't. We don't. It's okay. Friends disagree sometimes. That doesn't mean we hate each other. We have differing opinions. But that's kind of the point of this video is for the three of us to kind of sit
I
down.
hate you, Valiant.
I know. I hate you too. You piss off, asshole. So anyway, I think this will be a fun video with me and Cameron and Pro. We're going to have a good time together, and y'all probably see that in the next couple of days. So
Yeah, and hopefully you can join us tomorrow morning as well. So take care of yourself.
I will do my best.
Good night,
All right,
VR.
All right. Take
Take
care.
care. All right, let's get back to some of these super chats here real quick. We've got Devil's Due who says Snyder Bros. Oh, we got this one. Thank you though. Pegasus Chronicle says Devil Due is wrong. Snyderverse red pilled me. Well, again, that's your. I'm not trying to change anybody's mind here. So there you go. Buttcrack Media sent me a pooper sticker, and he's also been a member. It says here for how many months has it been here? Come on, stupid Twitter. The mod group. Here we go. So he's been a member for 9 months at the minimum after puppy level. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Buttcrack Media. We appreciate that. We got Views with Hughes who says Snyderverse died and my hopes have died as well. Not giving Gunn a chance. Just don't want to be burned like MCU did us. Checking out. No, that's fair. If you want to go that route, that's your decision as a viewer and a consumer. That's one of those things. Man.
Agreed.
Just
you know,
one of
that's a very
things.
fair take. I mean, yeah, everyone's entitled to how they genuinely feel, so it makes sense, you know. And to be fair, you got plenty of DC out there you can enjoy too. There's always what's come before.
Oh yeah. Then we got Joseph Brown who says attack fans and say do not watch, then shocked. Oh, well, yeah. If you do that, that doesn't happen. I just think you start referring to Star Trek probably, or one of the many shows that fans have been attacked by. Insert your show here, basically, or movie. Mark Dolly sends in 20 generous dollars. Thank you so much. Says people cling to the Snyderverse because it was replaced by the DCU. Give them a non-woke alternative that respects the source material, and people will forget the Snyder. But guns, freaks, and geeks ain't gonna cut it. Hey, you know, I totally understand where people are coming from. I understand there's a lot of apprehension. I'm going at it from the angle of I have not seen anything come from James Gunn that I hate yet, and he seems to be able to separate his politics from his entertainment. We will have to wait and see what he does. I'm curious to see what he does with Superman, but I'm very worried about what he's planning on doing with like Batman, for instance. So I do understand. I do totally understand.
One thing that he's been consistent with is he knows how to pull the emotional heartstrings of the audience and do it effectively. Both Guardians of the Galaxy, even the Christmas special, even some of the endearing qualities he did in Scooby-Doo and in, oddly enough, Dawn of the Dead, even Super to a degree. He knows how to, get a rise out of the audience and do it well. So but we have to wait and see.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
And then we've got Pilgrim Media says, "Oh, I gotta do this as Butters." I'm not sure if I can do Butters as well as WDW Pros.
But does he?
Oh,
Does he really?
hamburgers. No, I can't do blue butters. We move on our privacy.
Yeah, no, I can't do that. Sorry. I can't do that one. Sorry. I wish I could. I can do Cartman, but that's about it.
God damn it, Kyle.
That's about it. So sorry about that. But yeah, so with that, we're wrapped up on the super chats. We got one more announcement that I don't know if this came out of the I'm sure it was mentioned, but got an update on the It prequel series. Welcome to Derry is coming from Andy Muschietti, if anybody gives a shit. But you did say, Script, they needed an It series. So now they have one. Oh, wait, I forgot this. Yeah, sorry.
All right, well, let's see what happens.
Yeah, I knew what you meant by It series. But yeah, so yeah, we already knew about this. It's a prequel series. Is anybody looking forward to this at all?
I'm sure somebody is.
I see some tumbleweed moving
Sure
by.
somebody.
See some tumbleweeds.
That'll
It
make
was
a
not
difference.
I did not care for the reboot. Did not. It's pretty bad when a 30-year-old TV movie gets it better. I mean, I liked a little bit of how they finished up the film. Like I would say the climax, how they destroyed Pennywise and all that business was a little better. But I never understood what the fuck the point was of making Pennywise look like he was a demon from the start. Because I watched that documentary they just put out about the original It miniseries, and they got it. They said exactly what I said to Tommy Lee Wallace, the director of the original series myself. I was like, you can't have him look like that. You can't draw in a kid if he looks like that. You got to make him look like an actual clown, like he's fun and funny and inviting, and then he twists himself into something more demonic. And that's what Tim Curry understood, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yep. Hey, Jane.
hey, we got Jane in the house. She's crying, war! Are you talking about the war with Amazon and Warner Brothers?
Is it good for?
The
I think
War of the
Script
Ring.
is right. It's not going to be much of a War of the Ring when you get done to it. It's going to be... I put it out on Twitter. I was like, Zaslav just mushroom stamped Amazon. So, yeah, just thud. Yeah. So with that, I think we're going to wrap this up. Script Doctor, anything you got coming up? Any Viking or anything?
No, did some earlier today, but I also dropped my episode 2 review of Star Trek Picard on my Patreon. And this Saturday, if things go according to schedule, I'll have on my Patreon the 2006 draft of Dan Aykroyd's Ghostbusters 3 Hellbent review. So feel free to check that out if you're so inclined.
Speaking of scripts, I got to talk to you. Teague sent us in a super chat. Thank you so much. Says, should I do a meat rat impression? That's about the best. Yeah, I never really watched the show, so I can't remember what he sounds like. And I know it's something like that. Anybody here do a meat wad impression? No?
I'm afraid I don't know who that is.
Apparently, I cannot.
It's from
Aqua
the
Teen
Aqua
Hunger
Teen
Force.
Hunger
It sounds
Force.
like was
No,
it Stitch from Lilo and Stitch?
Yeah,
That's
something
the-
like this. It's like, oh,
Ah.
guys. Something like that. Yeah, I can't remember. Never really got into it. I didn't hate it or anything. It just was like, eh. I always liked home movies. That was my show on there.
I
Grumpy
like
Old
the
Ninja.
episode with Danzig. That was good.
Grumpy Old Ninja Kentaro says, I agree with script, but Damien has to be a completely different character from Gun's ability to tug heartstrings to apply here. Yeah, that's going to be a tough one.
Man, Damien's a
Wayne
really
sucks.
terrible character.
I don't understand why we're
Oh.
just not getting, Robin's not getting his just dues, right?
I
Like,
have a
that's what
theory.
this is.
I have a theory on Damien and as far as the skipping the line, I think Gunn is changing in his DC universe to where Damien is the first Robin.
Probably will.
That's what I
Oh
think
my
it's going to be,
God.
because I thought about why is he skipping
Probably
the line.
so.
I thought more about it over the weeks. I'm like, you know what?
Could be.
I think I figured it out. I think
Maybe.
he's gonna be the first Robin, because when I thought I started connecting the dots when he said his Batman was not gonna be that old. He said it was gonna be in his 20s. And I was like,
Right.
well, how can that?
I don't remember him saying
when
that, but
He tweeted about it a few days ago. He did. Because someone asked him how old Batman and Superman were gonna be. He said he said Superman was gonna be like in his mid-20s, and Batman would not be much older. So I'm like, okay,
yeah, I figured 30s. Yeah.
so I'm like, if he's not much older, he's skipping Robins.
Yeah, that's a bad case because
Could be.
the compassion that Bruce Wayne has for Dick Grayson when he witnesses his parents fall from the trapeze, that is something that James Gunn could do really well. But Damien's a jerk. Like he's a really annoying, obnoxious kid. He doesn't jive well. Like, listen, you can start him off bad, but like to bring him on an arc where people are going to like him at the end, that's going to be a Herculean task. Yeah, that's something that
unless
would
it's a
take maybe
completely
year
different
to
take on the
figure out.
character. Exactly.
Yeah, unless you did a different take on the character, in which case he wouldn't even be Damien, so why even use him? So there's a whole lot of wrong with going that direction, in my opinion, on Batman.
It's kind of the whole problem with Jason Todd and any other, and this is why I don't like. This is going back to people who, every time they discover that IDW is going forward with the last Ronin spinoff of the new Ninja Turtles, and they let me know that, it's like, I know. I don't care. Because we already got one. You don't need another one. I don't like this idea of having to, look, they're comic book characters. They don't have to age. That's the beauty of it. You can do like a little Elseworld story or a Batman Beyond kind of story. That's fine. But I've never seen the sense in having a new Robin. To me, it's like, we're going to need another Timmy, like the thing from Dinosaurs.
To me, it's just Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson.
Yeah, what's wrong with Dick Grayson? Yeah, like, he's the original sidekick. Come on.
In fact, I love the way it was on Earth 2 when Dick Grayson just became an adult Robin. When he, got old enough and he kept an adult variation on the costume, and he was still Robin, just an adult. That's the way I've always preferred it.
Well, the excuse was always given to me, and again, I'm not trying to put anybody down who likes stories where they do this, but they're like, they do it so they can progress the characters. It's like, if you can tell a good fucking story, you don't need to continue on. You could just keep telling stories in the Batman. These stories are set up to where you can just tell endless fucking stories, right? Like, I don't get it. And I know maybe Script can understand where I'm coming from, as far as like, look, you could have kept Batman the animated series going forever. You didn't have to make anybody grow up. Dick Grayson could have stayed the same age for the whole goddamn thing, could still be going to this day. And the Simpsons are still going, and they're all 10 and 6 or whatever the ages they are still. 8, whatever.
Same way Simpsons and
Lisa's had like a dozen birthdays, yet she's still only 9 years old.
South Park are going.
Yeah, exactly.
Simpsons and South Park are going. Yeah, Batman the Animated Series, especially if they had the right writers. Yeah, absolutely. And the right voices, of course, because the voices were very essential to such a good show, because those voices were so distinct, and they really, those are the types of voices that get in your memory as soon as you hear them. Like, especially if you're reading like Batman material, a lot of the voices I hear are straight from the animated series.
Well, to me, it goes along with the whole same thing with like Miles Morales and all these other characters. Why? We already fucking got one.
Agreed.
I don't get it. James Bond has been recast 600 fucking times.
Yep.
And he ain't aged a bit.
Yes, sir.
So I just don't get it.
And how many times does Batman need to begin?
That's the other side of it, right? Like, that's the other side of it, too. I agree.
Give me a really good mystery for him to solve.
You don't need constantly. I know people are disagreeing with me in the chat, but I just don't see. To me, if you're doing that, you've kind of run out of original ideas for the other character. And because all you're doing is the same thing, just with somebody else. What's the difference? To me, I just don't see the point in bat whammon, bat this, bat that, bat. We have
they
one
oversaturated
Batman.
Once they got beyond.
Yeah.
Once they got past Batgirl and Nightwing, that's when the Bat family got too crazy and convoluted.
And even Batgirl, I can barely give a pass to, right? Or Supergirl is another example I can barely give a pass to. But like, I'm just not. I don't know. This is an unpopular
Copyright
opinion.
reasons.
I'm just not a fan of derivative or redundant characters that are the same fucking thing as the one that came before. It's like, well, then why don't I just have Iron Man? Like, why do I need another one? I got one already. I don't need somebody besides Tony Stark. I don't need somebody besides Peter Parker. Captain America is Captain America. Let's leave it at that. Why do we have to change it? It doesn't make no fucking sense. You want a new character? Make a new character. Fine.
Back in the 80s in the comics, we were all a little aggravated when Tony Stark was quit for a while and Rhodey took over. But later they solved that. Tony came back and Rhodey became War Machine, and it was pretty cool.
Well,
That was pretty cool,
yeah, that's kind of a side,
Imagine
like a
that.
sidekick kind of thing.
Well, here's the other part
Yeah.
too. There's a derivative character, and then there's an interpretation within the style of the character. So you have like She-Hulk, which was created primarily to retain the rights of She-Hulk because Stan Lee
Of
was pretty
course.
sure that someone was going to do a female version of the Hulk, and he wouldn't have any control over it. So he's trying to protect the core IP. Same thing happened actually over at Detective Comics when they introduced Batgirl.
Supergirl, all of them, yeah.
Yeah, they had Batwoman and they had Batgirl back in the day, and then they revamped her in the 60s because they realized that if they didn't do that, another rival publisher could do a Batgirl, and then that would taint or risk tainting the brand of Batman. They would be using Batman as an accidental marketing strategy for their other original character that was not associated with Detective Comics. So that's why they were made. The difference, though, is that at that time, when writers were assigned those characters, they actually tried to take a risk and do something interesting and different with those characters, as opposed to just replay the same type of story arcs that have already happened with the originals. And that's where you have a differential between writing of then and what's going on today. Like Miles Morales apparently is going through a lot of similar stories that Peter Parker went through 45 years ago. So you're just giving a veneer, and that's way different than actually just developing a character. However, like in the last 25 years, the Bat family has grown like 12-fold. Like,
well, that's why I
there's
hated the
so many of
CW
them that he
shows,
developed
right?
a corporation, and I'm like, that's a dumb thing. Batman
And that's
would
why I
never
hated the
develop-
CW shows, is because it couldn't just be the superhero. It had to be their fucking team on top of it all. It's like they don't.
Yep.
What the fuck is this shit? And I get it. Again, some people don't agree with me, and I don't have a problem. Again, I said with certain Elseworld stories or like a Batman Beyond kind of thing once in a while is kind of fun to look at, or jumping into the future for like a lark or whatever you want to call it. But I don't need new Ninja Turtles. We've already got 4. And like Batman, the Ninja Turtles don't need to be rebooted constantly, in a sense that you don't need to retell their origin story over and over again. Most people know it, or you can tell it real quick within the story itself. It's so easy to do because they have like Batman, very easy to understand origin story. It's not too difficult to re-explain.
The only thing that Ninja Turtles need are some female turtles for them to get with, because frankly, they're the only type of their species.
Stop.
And they can't all be with April.
Nobody is getting with April. There is no women turtles. The turtles are turtles. They're teenagers. End of discussion. They don't need to
They'll never grow to
age.
adults. They'll never fall in love. They'll never have children.
I don't fucking care.
They'll be
Last
virgins forever,
Ronin
Tom.
was, this is my problem with it now, and this is what got us on the subject in the first place. Last Ronin was fine as a standalone graphic novel of sorts.
Oh yeah, I enjoyed it.
Now that they're deciding to continue on is the problem. I don't need TMNT TNG.
Mhm. No, we don't. And
We've already fucking got one.
Yep.
Like,
we
now
we
here's
don't.
there's an example. Sometimes I don't mind it so much. TNG is a spin-off of the original series. It's not them trying to necessarily redo the original series. And it's not the same exact fucking thing. See, like, that's the difference. It's like, I don't mind when you have Avengers style stuff that spins off into other, things, right? But again, I don't need 12 Bat this or 20 Super Thems or 50 Flash Days, right? Like, just come up with something new. Like, that's what bothers me. That's what takes us back. Like, I don't need 12 Robins. Like, I don't need to keep remembering which one's Robin. Like, I gotta go, which one's this? Like,
We shouldn't have to do that. No, I agree. And the thing is, all these companies, they don't care to do the legwork. They only want to have the characters have the name because, well, the name sells. So it's just like, to me, if you have to always rely on the name to sell, that means you're not even that confident in what you're putting out. Because if you truly believe in new characters, but you keep on again to live off of someone else's name, then you're not really having that much conviction in what you're trying to put out there. Like, if you really have a new character and want to have them be their own character and stop having them be the next and have them be the first, put your money where your mouth is. Like, yeah, not every new character is going to stick. I get it. And yeah, it's unfortunate what happens. Some also take longer than others to resonate as well. And some just never will. But that's just the way the business works. All you're doing is cheapening the brands when you're taking every single one and saying, oh, everyone could be everyone. Well, if everyone could be everyone, then no one's anyone. There's no point to any of this.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess comic books, I don't mind so much. You can do whatever you want in comic books. And again, some people like the idea of continuing on the Ninja Turtle story.
Spider people.
And the million spider people and stuff like that. That's fine. But you know what? At the same time, there's been a whole chunk of time where I'm sure that hasn't been overly explored. Because that's what bothered me about Seth Rogen with the whole, and I don't even want to show the picture here because I'm waiting to see if my tweet gets in trouble with Paramount. But I did post what they look like in the new movie because the toys leaked out.
Oh, dude, they look horrendous.
His first thing on the whole thing just made me like lose my fucking mind because he's like, we're gonna do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but we're gonna concentrate on the teenage part. The part nobody's ever concentrated on before. It's like, you mean in every other single fucking version before? Every one of them except for the 2007 movie where they actually let them. That's what I'm saying. Okay, fine. You want to advance the story? Just make them Ninja Turtles. They don't need to be teenagers anymore. Fine. Like Script was saying, let them grow a little older. They don't need to meet girl fucking turtles though either. Like I was never, look, I'm a hardcore TMNT fan, but I'm not a fan of the wacky shit. And when I say the wacky shit is once they start getting into the cross-dimensional space shit and stuff beyond
and
beyond the Utroms. Like I thought simplifying the Utroms into Krang was a much better idea. Because to me, that's when shit starts getting off the rails, especially with the dinosaur people and all that shit. It just it's cool, but it's to me then it just starts getting real fucking wacky. And I'm not into that shit as much. So I get it. You can go that route, you can do things with that, but that's not the Ninja Turtles that I'm in love with. I get it. Some people, that's your cup of tea. But frankly, I've fallen out of most of them when they get to that point. But Script's got to go here. So on your way out the door, Mecha J is curious, which streaming services do we see sticking around? And we're going to wrap it up here anyway. And which ones do you see going? Script, anything offhand that you see sticking around? I know you're not usually a fan of getting into too much of that kind of stuff, but yeah.
I don't think any of the streaming services are going to be going anywhere.
There you go. And with that, you said you did not have any thing coming up directly, but you will be doing Viking at some point, I'm sure.
I did some earlier today, but yeah, no, it all depends. I've got some big stuff happening over the weekend and for the next week. So yeah, that'll keep me away from doing certain things on YouTube, but not everything.
All right. Yeah, we got to get together again for an A-rated B movie. But until then, talk to you soon, my friend. And then Gonzalo Bergali. Take care.
Take care.
Gonzalo says, is that Ray Charles Splinter I see in the leaked Toy Story? Well, I don't know if they got him being completely blind, but they sure are implying that he might be because he's got sunglasses on. It's just, you know what's sad about this is some of the designs aren't completely horrible, but some of them are so off the fucking kilter, and they all look stoned.
No, the turtles were all terrible. Some of the villains are better.
And Mikey, I didn't mind so much. Like Mikey in that region, like it's still a little too cutesy for me. Raph looks like shit. Donnie looks like shit. Leo and Mikey are probably the two that look okay. But what's that shit on Leo's fucking belt? Like what the hell is that all about?
Stupid. I just call it stupid.
I hate it when they got too busy with them in the remake and the Michael Bay produced ones too. It's like keep them simple. Yeah. Like I don't mind a few things here and there to maybe differentiate, but I'm not a fan of the bandana thing with Raph. Never have
it looks awful. They tried it with that Rise of the TMNT too. Yes. It's just like, guys, this look doesn't work.
Unfortunately, that's the kind of vibe I'm getting from this. Now it looks better than that, and that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, fine. And somebody did point that out. It looks better than some of the other shit we've gotten. That's true. But I'm also I just want some straightforward, decent looking Ninja Turtles like the classic forms. I don't need this cutesy shit. I don't need the Hulk turtles. I don't, What is wrong with that? That 1990 design they got for the movie was fucking spot on. It was a nice mix between the comics and everything else we've had as far as toys and cartoons and other mediums. It was a pretty nice amalgamation of all of them.
Yeah.
I think Bebop's is okay. I'd have to get a better glance at the
Bebop
front
looks
of the
like
head.
a fucking he looks like he's trans or some shit people were saying.
I can see what I say that, but it's not the first thing that came to my mind.
It's more like
Rocksteady's
Bebop.
okay. I don't like how Splinter looks. I think that's,
I hate how Rocksteady and
so on Splinter is.
I don't like how Rocksteady looks. He looks too simplistic. And then the other one, and the other one
I'm
really
good with
hated.
Rocksteady. I don't like Leatherhead's look.
Leatherhead's the worst one, but yeah.
Yeah, that one's terrible. I don't like Superflies either. Yeah. Bebop and Rocksteady. Bebop is the one I'm fairly good with. Rocksteady, that's all right for me, but
I'm just not a fan of the design overall. But
that's fair.
The Turtles could be worse, I guess, is what I'm trying to concede to. But
I mean, they're better than Rise, but that's not saying much either.
Exactly, that's kind of where I'm at. But with that, we're gonna leave on this note. I think it was Valiant that sent me this in the background here. This is about Cocaine Bear, so we're gonna check out Nick. You're gonna be up later on comics.
Not tonight.
Oh, you're not gonna be there tonight?
You should go hang out with them.
I'm gonna try. Klobby, what do you got coming up?
At a little over an hour, 9 Central, I've got the Clubhouse with Raquel and Mark, and then I'll hang out with tomorrow night at 8:30 with Nick and the gang at the comic shop, right? Nick, we're there.
Yes,
and
sir.
Then,
we're gonna be talking the Dave Stevens Rocketeer
Dave Stevens
run.
Rocketeer, reviewing it. Can't wait. And then Saturday Night Star Trek, 9 p.m. With Raquel.
And then Gonzalo Bergali sent us a member chat and said only Batman and Bat Tom are needed. I agree.
True.
And then we have another super chat real quick from Grumpy Old Ninja Kintaro, who says, I don't want no Michael Bay or Seth Rogen Turtles. Exactly my feelings too.
Yeah.
My feelings too on that. So with that, let's go out, I should say, on this note. Inspired by true events. Here's what you need to know before you see Cocaine
Here's what
Bear.
you need to know before you see Cocaine Bear. Nothing. You don't need to read a comic book from 1978. The bear wasn't introduced at the end of the Eternals. If you've ever heard the words cocaine or bear before, you're completely up to speed. Don't come to this movie for a pop quiz, okay? As Nicole Kidman said, we come to Cocaine Bear for magic. And you're not going to see any articles after, like Cocaine Bear ending explained. You're just going to see ones that say, remember the ending of Cocaine Bear? We do too. It f***ing ruled. This movie will be conservatively 1 billion times better than Citizen Kane. Conservatively. Here's what you need to know before.
That was actually really funny.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, that actually, like, I actually kind of made me interested just by the fact you said we don't need some article saying ending explained. That was actually a really good jab.
Very good.
Mainstream media, because that has become like one of the banes of access media. It's just like, oh,
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I wanted to go see it tonight. Sadly, the weather got in my way, so maybe I'll check it out this weekend. If not, hopefully I'll get to see it soon. But with that, kids, let's get the hell out of here. Nick, did you have anything else to plug? I forgot to ask if you had anything coming up tomorrow.
Yeah, I got an unboxing video, and the box is literally huge. I'm not even joking. This thing's like the size of like half my body. So I'll have that video out this weekend, and Toxic Tuesday for the month of March. It's gonna be a John Wick-a-thon. So
and then we got a member chat from Haitian Faladoro too as well, who said, okay, here's the thing. We talk about Marvel Comics not jiving with what is in the movies. DC should be making movies with the comics they have now. Which comics?
Yeah,
that's the other problem. Again, same fucking problem with Marvel. Which
that's even the issue, even with Gunn already, because he's already looking to Tom King's Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow.
Yeah,
and I never read it, but I'm going to tell you this: no one talked about that book. Not even hated it; just no one talked about it. and that book is being the point of reference for
Yeah.
Supergirl. And I don't even mind Supergirl. Like, yeah, it's not lost me that she's still basically just female Superman. I still agree on all that. Like, her idea, her creation is kind of a cheap idea, but she is definitely has had some good story arcs to make up for that over the years on occasion. And he chooses that. Of all the ones, you choose that.
Yeah.
No, I mean, if you want to go with all the classic kind of basic ideas, then yeah.
And
so hopefully that's the case, but
yeah,
I don't know.
plenty of classics that can emulate 90s new crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed. And again, I'm not against amalgamations. Like, that's where the movies come in, and that's where a lot of my rant earlier was coming from. The movies and TV shows. It's like, you don't need to overcomplicate this shit, and you can make it to where most fans can buy into it. Just kind of make it a pretty good amalgamation of what everybody knows and loves about the characters, and then chances are those who don't know will follow along if it's good. So
yeah,
there you go. And then Mecha J says, I kind of agree with Script a little. I don't see Peacock lasting long. Well, he seems to like Peacock for some reason. I will say that. He has a love. He really loves it. I don't get it. I really don't, because I have a year of Peacock now, and outside of like Saturday Night Live and a few other things, like the older Saturday Night Live, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't really see much on there that I'd watch that I don't already own. Like, that's the problem. And the only reason I've really gotten it is because of the Halloween movies, and both have been. So, all right. With that, kids, take care of yourselves and each other, and we will see you on the morning show, hopefully, where I will be talking with Cameron, and who else? Who knows who will show up on that show? Sometimes you never know. Take care, and let's see. Here's my button.
Good night, everybody.
Night.